So good morning, Kate. Welcome to my podcast, One for the Road. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I'm not too bad. Currently, actually in isolation, which is definitely testing a few things, but I'm sure we will get onto that and talk about that. But yeah, on the whole, doing really well.
Oh, that's great. I mean, it is dragging on forever, but we just got to deal with it, haven't we? So most people that know you would look at you and they would go, wow, you're super fit. You look really, really healthy. And it just goes to show that alcohol doesn't discriminate, does it? And you've had your own demons with that, which we go on to talk about a little bit later. But firstly, I would love to know how it was for you growing up.
Wow. I mean, that's a loaded question. And it's funny, isn't it? Because I was speaking to someone not that long ago about how our childhood impacts our choices. And I definitely think when I look back now and the situation I'm in, lots of things have contributed to the dysfunctional relationship that I possibly had with alcohol. And that since stopping has definitely helped me face some of the things I'm still yet to face. But on the whole, I had a really lovely childhood. I was really, really very lucky. I still have a wonderful mum and a wonderful dad, although they did get divorced. But for all intents and purposes, from what I can remember, we were lucky. We would go on holidays. I felt very loved by my parents and my big sister. Had two lovely dogs, Ben and Brandy, and yeah, felt very secure, and felt very, very lucky and very supported. It's interesting you say about being fit. I was bullied at school, which is where things may have taken a turn towards the feelings of insecurity that have haunted me for most of my life. There were some pretty mean girls out there. And although everyone who I've spoken to would dispute that fact, I felt that I was bubblier, chubbier than the rest of my contemporaries. And there were, as I say, some pretty nasty girls out there who, yeah, single-handedly ruined some years of schooling for me, that subsequently led to eating disorders, which probably led to my dysfunctional relationship with alcohol. So I would say that on that part, that was possibly where things stemmed or started to sort of chip away at me, probably from around about the age of 10 or 11.
Oh, it's awful what kids can do back in the days. And I was bullied as well. Actually, I was quite a big kid, but I was bullied by the smallest kid in the class. And he would just go on at me all the time at playground, and it really affected my mental health back then. And I had a relationship with my mum and dad that I couldn't really talk about things, so I
Yeah.
used to bottle it up a lot, and that wasn't healthy.
Yeah, definitely. I think I didn't tell my parents, not because I didn't feel I could talk to them, but I came from a background where it was very much you just pick yourself up and you get on with it. So, not that I didn't think I was going to get any attention from it, because, my mum was tiger mum and, would protect her cubs. But I definitely learned to put up quite a big shield around myself, and from an early age have always just got on with it and kind of coped. I had a big sister. She was 18, still have a big sister. She's 18 months older than me. I would almost say she's a little bit tougher than me, probably still now. I'm actually quite an emotional person, from all of the things. And I talk about my incidences a lot more, probably than anyone else in my family. But I definitely felt like a lot of things were possibly swept under the carpet, not because of anything else other than that's kind of what happened back in the day. But I'll never forget, actually, one time in the playground, I was being chased by some girls and I tripped up over a bench and fell on my face and cut my chin and cut my nose. And I think I remember picking myself up and going to the teachers and sort of saying, this happened. They, don't be so daft, don't be so stupid, you were just playing and you tripped over a bench. And actually, I know I was being chased. I know I tripped over that bench because I was trying to get away. But if you're consistently kind of told, don't be daft, or no, that wasn't, you begin to believe it, right? And so actually you stop reaching out to people because you don't think you're going to be heard. So what's kind of the point?
Yeah, I can really relate to that, actually. And then for me, I moved secondary schools in the second year as well, which was, I think I was 14, and that was quite traumatic for me. And as I've said on previous podcasts, my mum then left, and that's when my drinking started. So quite heavily, in fact. So at what age were you when you first took your first drink?
Crikey. I think I was probably around about 14. Same. I had an older sister, let's not forget. So whilst at 16, you know, we would hang out together. You know, everyone would be drinking and I would obviously go along for the ride. But I wouldn't actually, at that point, you know what, I didn't really like alcohol. Like I am a slight control freak, which possibly came later in life. But I never really liked the feeling at that point of being out of control. And actually there was an incident. I mean, God forbid my sister listens to this or my parents, but there was an incident with my sister actually. So she must have been 15 in Bushy Park actually, because we grew up around there. And we got, well, she got slightly drunk and got taken home actually in an ambulance. And my dad was furious because obviously we were late home. All I remember is knocking on the door and me being the first one at the door and him going, what the heck, you know, where have you been? What the heck? And then just woo, 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 coming up the road. And there was my sister. And actually she was brought into the house and put to bed, but she woke up the next day and my dad didn't really tell her off actually, because I think he thought, well, she'll feel crap the next day. But you know what you forget when you're sort of 40 is actually at 15, 16, you don't feel crap the next day. You have the capacity to kind of keep going. So actually she wasn't really told off that badly, not like I would to my children, if you do listen to this. So I guess that we you know, not that drinking was accepted in our household, but it was never ever really frowned upon. And it was a very open house. And we certainly were allowed, which I will still do with my kids, we were allowed to have friends around the whole time. But we were probably quite good at covering it up. And I think that's how it all starts, isn't it, with kids? It all starts as a bit of a laugh. For some it might start in a place where they're feeling quite low. For me, funny enough, it did give me confidence. I was quite a loud child, but I was actually quite shy, and that's often the way. And because I'd been so put down quite a lot, you know, I guess I had a couple of drinks and I came to life. And actually around about 14, secondary school, I mean, I'll never forget my worst insult. You know, I was one of those girls that got on with all the boys. Like they were all my mates, they were my friends, and girls, I guess by default can be a bit envious of that. And the assumption was that, you know, I was putting it about with the boys, which I wasn't, just for the record. And I forget one girl, I even remember her name to this day. So if I ever see her,
Don't mention it, no.
don't, yeah, I won't mention who she is in case she's listening, but she owes me a huge apology. She called me a pregnant prostitute once, and I remember locking myself in the loo at school. And all the boys going, what's the matter? And I sort of told them, and they took my camp. But you know, she'd called me that because she'd insinuated I was putting about, and I was slightly curvy. And so I think I lacked confidence. And so for me, probably having a drink was that numbed that sensation of not feeling good enough. And yeah, that's probably where it's all sort of started. So I was probably about 14.
To feel accepted as well.
Yeah.
Because I was really shy, and I think that's why I was bullied, because when I went into this second year, I remember walking into the classroom, I was petrified, but I wasn't really that streetwise, you know. My upbringing was quite, you know, carpenters playing on a Sunday, mum doing the roast dinner, dad in the garage, making something on the vice and stuff. And I was quite happy at home with my Meccano or Lego and that. And when we moved, it was quite a rough school, and there was all these burly kids in there just looking me up and down. And I didn't really fit in. But gradually, when I started drinking at the shops with them, I felt like I did fit in. And then I was one of the gang, and that's, I think, what encouraged me to carry on like that.
It's so sad that we, you know, I suppose looking back, that one feels like that's the way to be in with the crowd. Wouldn't it be so much better if I don't know, for the next generation, it would be something else, like, I suppose. But I suppose that does happen if you're not part of a team or you're not part of a sports team. You have to find your people, right? And that's where we kind of probably need to make things more inclusive for everybody, so that no kid is left out feeling like they don't belong.
Yeah, and I think things are different now. You know, they're so much different. Thank the Lord. But
Yeah.
and then so going into your 20s and that, what did you live like a normal sort of clubby person in your 20s? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I certainly knew how to party. I've had some really, really, really good times. I've had some really, really stupid times. I put myself in some really, really stupid situations, looking back now. And yeah, I mean, when was my worst time? My parents got divorced just before I went traveling. I took a year out, but I would, yeah, I mean, actually, God, okay. So thinking back to that, my sister's 18th was not a good experience for me. I think I was sick by like 10 o'clock, and I snogged the back end of a horse at her party. You know, it was fancy dress. But again, that was kind of in front of everybody, family, peers, and at no point was there ever any, you know. But I guess people by default, from what I can gather now from my friends that have older kids, they go through that. There's a sort of rite of passage, I guess, to have those experiences. It just depends when they stop, if they stop, and how it manifests itself. But yeah, no, then I went to Manchester, and yeah, I pretty much drank, you know, every day, clubbing scene, if I went to bed, you know, that was sometimes a good thing. I did actually end up sort of partying a little bit too hard, that I had to leave Manchester Met, where I was at after my first year. I didn't want to leave Manchester because I didn't really want to come home. So I went to Manchester Poly, Manchester College even, and did an HND in multimedia. So, you know, it definitely took over a part of my life, numbed quite a lot of my senses. But it was fun, right? Like you never think it's gonna get out of control. And I think you and I have spoken about this. I definitely have got to places where I've relied on things, substances, alcohol, whatever, because I have an addictive personality. But I've always been able to kind of take stock and kind of park it. You know, I think you can, maybe some people can, certainly in their 20s and 30s. And then I, after I had this amazing career in film and TV, obviously the party scene is pretty hardcore, rife. And, you know, I would say that throughout all of those years, I only ever did just really stupid things that could have been dangerous, and I got away with it. Is what I would say. Like, I never, yeah, when I look back, I think, wow. And even when I think back to traveling with my friend, you know, if my daughter was to ever go, you would take risks, right? You'd make stupid decisions when you're drunk. And when I look back now, I'm scared about what could have happened when you see other stories in the press. You know, that for me was kind of my 20s and my relationship with alcohol. I would say it was probably normal in comparison to what everybody else was doing, but it's just how it then manifests itself and takes a grip on you. Whereas a lot of my friends, I guess, as they got in their late 20s, they would have nights off, and be able to say no. For me, it was very much something that I have holistically always looked forward to, at like 5 o'clock of an afternoon, having a drink, probably from about the age of 28, 29. It's sort of that celebratory end of the day. And I think it's when that really begins to take hold that you have to just sit back and think about what it's doing for you.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when I look back at some of the times I had, I mean, I even went to an 1830s, and there'd be some people listening to this now that don't really know what that is, but it was a club, wasn't it? That holiday thing that I remember sitting on the coach, and I was picked out because I was a big bloke, and they said, right, you're going to be Tarzan today. And we went to this boiling hot beach. I think we were out in Greece or something. And I had to drink this huge funnel of cocktail they had made up. run out to the sea, pick Jane up, who was a random girl on the sea, spin around this pole 10 times, come back, and then they pour more down my neck in like 100 degrees of heat. And then I literally threw up everywhere and was ill for the whole afternoon. I was obviously completely dehydrated. But these kind of things back in
Yeah.
the day were just like what they said, oh, this is such a laugh, this is brilliant. But as you just said, some people, they grow out of that and they go, you know, I'm going to settle down with a family, and you know, it changes in a healthy way for them. But for me, it just carried on.
Yeah. And that's really key. That's kind of what you say, like people grow out of it. And I think that's where I probably got to. I know we'll move forward, but you know, just hearing you say those sort of stories, 18 to 30, I'm just getting massive, am I allowed to swear? I'm not going to. Flashbacks of just like hideous situations that I remember one actually, I did a ski season in Verbier, and I'll never forget standing they had a shots bar downstairs in this bar, and that's where I spent most of my night, you know. And I was a larger girl then again, so I guess I was compensating for, or I thought I was. And I remember just having a shot and then just literally throwing up on my shoes in the bar, and then not thinking anything of it, and then just carrying on. I mean, what the actual how is that okay? Like, how is that funny? And then you would I get that. You wake up the next morning and it is a laugh. It is a laugh. I remember another time, me and my friend couldn't work out who had been sick, but actually someone could have choked on that sick. You know, like I look back now and it gives me, it scares me, and I feel sad slightly that something ever let one get to that stage. But I think we've all been there, we've all done it. But like we say, it's where it then manifests itself as you get older and older, you know, into your 40s.
But it changes, doesn't it? Like a lot of relationships, you know, like a long marriage, like a long partnership, it starts off fun. You take risks and you just enjoy yourself. But you know, for me, it changed as soon as I started to drink indoors. Because it was never enough going to the pub. You know, I'd always come home and have what they say in the old days, a nightcap. But the nightcap could be 4 cans of Diamond White, or a bottle of wine. And then I become a solitary drinker because I couldn't drink enough at the pub. You know, everyone was slower than me. And that's where the relationship changes, you know, and that's where I got myself into trouble. What stage of your life did you notice that things changed for you with your drinking?
I think it's hard because I'd say I probably had a dysfunctional relationship with alcohol for quite a long time. It's just recognizing it, isn't it? Because actually, if everyone is slightly in that similar pattern, it's very easy to always think you're okay. And actually, I remember recently, and then I'll come back to that, sharing that post that you did. Monday, I'm not going to drink. Tuesday, I'm not going to drink. Wednesday, all bad day, have a drink. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And I shared that with obviously my community and a lot of the mums down here. And they're like, oh my God, that's me. You know, and it's like, okay, well, if that is you, then you need to recognize that is a dysfunctional pattern. And also it's the way you talk to yourself and you make it okay to do that. And it's okay to do this. So I would say, going back, that I don't know at what time it changed. All I know is the light bulb moment was last year when I felt so ill. But I would say that for a good, well, obviously I didn't drink when I was pregnant. I was so ill. But other than not being pregnant, I have probably always made an excuse to have a drink, and I've never been one to have one or two. I'm always the first person at the bar, often texting my friends, you know, I've got there half an hour early, probably 2 glasses of wine down before anyone's turned up. Where are you? I'll be the one propping up the bar, ha, ha, ha. And probably not the last one to leave, because I was obviously not feeling very well or most pissed. So probably the first one to leave. And I think my sort of defining moment of thinking was when I was beginning to realize like that we live out in the country, we don't live in London. I was always panicking about how I was going to get to a party because I wanted to drink, or get back from a party because I wanted to drink. Like there was never any, okay, well, I'll drive and get us there, or, you know, for me, that just felt, it didn't sit comfortably with me. Where I was at, it didn't sit comfortably with me, and hasn't for a while, because like I said to you, alcohol for me has always been my go-to in a times of crisis, and my switch off, and it turns off the noise. And you know, I had a lovely childhood. There are things that I will talk about one day, and I've said that to you, but I've very much used alcohol to drown out a lot of the things that I haven't wanted to, you know. It just drowns out the noise. You know, we've said it before, it drowns out the noise, it dulls down the feelings. That first drink that hits you, you know, veins and everything's fine and it's great, and then obviously you drink more, and I mean, God, and that's the other thing. I think maybe for me, alcohol was a way of letting loose, because I'd have 2 or 3 drinks, but then every party I'd end up in tears, crying about my whole life. Thank God, then you wake up the next day and you think, oh crap, did I do that? And actually what I needed to do was face those things sober, right? Because only then can you truly accept them. If you can wake up and get out of bed and face the day and look at what challenges have been in your way and go to bed sober, and you've nailed it and you've thought about it and you've processed it and you're here and it's good and it's all okay, sober, right? That's when you begin to make progress. Because if you're just dulling those feelings every time with alcohol, it's just that vicious cycle, and you're not going to face up to what's going to make you stronger.
Yeah, it's I often use this analogy of an old suitcase in the loft that you know's there, and you know there's stuff in it, but to open the loft hatch and drag it towards you to look in is too hard sometimes. So for me, I was on that hamster wheel where I go round and round and round. Then I think, do you know what? Even by saying I'm going to take it easy next week was farcical, really, because I could never do that ever. I could never, ever just have one. So if ever I went out and I had to drive, which was really rare, I wouldn't have any, because if I had one, I would then want 10. So it's a lot easier for me not to have any. But when I would get in and it could be 11:30, 12, I would start drinking then. That's how bad it was, which is ridiculous, right? So when I got to the stage where I thought I was, well, you know, I got to a stage where I had to give up drinking, basically, because my doctor told me that my health was terrible, like rock bottom, and I could die very soon. All of a sudden, I was, in a way, forced to drag this suitcase over from the loft and lift open the lid and sit with what was inside, plus give up drinking, you know?
Yeah.
And it was really, really difficult. But why I lifted up the lid, acknowledged what was inside, and I closed it and put it in a corner. And I thought, okay, it's not time for that. I'm aware of it, but I'm not ready for that now. And it's only recently that I've had the strength to look inside it, because it's taken me 2.5 years to get there. You know, so sometimes you have to really be mindful of the self-care in the beginning, that you don't just lumber yourself with all these emotions from the past, that you deal with the here and now for now, you know. And it's so important to remember that, because otherwise it can be so overwhelming.
Yeah, no, definitely. And we've all got baggage, right? And I think that's the thing. So however much we all try and think we haven't got demons, I'm sure we all have got something that is a trigger. I don't believe for one second that sometimes people are drinking the amount they drink for pleasure. I think they've got that suitcase and they just don't want to open it. Yeah. And then they're too scared by default to also talk about it. And I think, again, alcohol for me I had eating disorders. And I would say that if I couldn't control my eating, it all sort of ties, I think, hand in hand. Yeah. And when I was drunk, the eating disorder went away because I couldn't feel it. So it's definitely a way. And now I don't drink, my eating is fine, and it's all okay. Like it's definitely, I've got that, my suitcase has come out of the attic and I'm still going through it, but I'm not scared to go through it because I feel stronger than I've ever felt before.
And that's amazing, but sometimes it's about fine tuning and aligning things together. So where before you said, if you didn't drink, your eating disorders would get out of hand and whatever, but sometimes you can just line them up better and control them all. So, I mean, we were in touch last year and you reached out to me and said you was having problems with alcohol. Had you just had enough then? Had you just thought, do you know what, I've really got to sort this out?
I think I'm trying to think when the first time was, there would have been a trigger that made me perhaps think that enough was enough. I think it was that I just didn't like the hold it had on me every day at 5 o'clock. And that wasn't, I'm not going to drink on a Monday. Or actually, yes, it would be. I would try that. I'm not going to drink on a Monday. I'm not going to drink on a Tuesday. And by Wednesday, I would have a drink and then drink Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And, I would hear it. Sometimes I'd actually wake up on the Sunday and go, okay, let's start from today. And then by 1 o'clock, you're making a lunch. And it's like, no, that was always a good excuse. And I know you like that one, that Sunday lunch, have a drink. And I just wanted to see if I could do it. And I think I'd tried it on my own and I'd done like 21 days and then I'd gone back. But when you go back hard. I think that's the one thing I always found that was when I think, and then the first time I spoke to you and I'd done really well and I'd almost got to my 30 days and I'd said to you, I think I've got a grip on it now. I just said that to make myself feel better. I know deep down now, I didn't have a grip on it. I just wanted a bloody drink, right? And it's that brilliant thing where we can just how our mind connects with what we want to hear, and what we want to do, being two such totally different things. The way we can just convince ourselves, that you deserve a drink because I deserved a drink because I'd done 28 days. It wasn't that I wanted one and I was craving one. And that was kind of why, and that was what was my way of getting out of it. Okay, Dave, I've got a handle on this, because I didn't want to, I guess, let people down. So you think, okay, how do I, what's the gentle way out? And then I think every time that happened, it just did get progressively worse. And again, it was fine because I think my life was going on and I was still doing my day job and I was still teaching spin, or by then still doing everything. But I was beginning to drink a little bit more on this last time when I reached out to you. And as we've spoken about, my symptoms of menopause were horrific. Everything was just shit, properly shit last year. Like alcohol was just one of the things that I thought was helping me. But it really, really wasn't.
I mean, the whole menopause conversation's massive, isn't it? When you drink alcohol. And now you don't. Has it made things a lot easier for you?
Yeah, it has. It's been, as you know, a tough year with my dad. And actually, I'm having slight anxiety at the moment because I can't actually get to him. And this week was it this week? When was it? Sophie got a positive on a COVID test and I realised I couldn't go. I literally said to my husband, get out I was there. I was ready to just go, fuck it. Because I'm stuck in quarantine again. I can't get to my dad. But then, you go at those moments, it's the time just to remove yourself from everybody, go for a walk, think how far you've come. And then, of course, my mind does that brilliant thing of it's so clever, the mind, even after 6 months, saying, well, what are you actually doing this for? What are the benefits? Oh, look, can't you see yourself sitting outside, having a laugh, having a drink? That's what you need to be doing. And then, you do get the odd friend that says, oh, for Christ's sake, have a drink. You deserve it. You've got so much on your plate at the moment, sit outside. Blah, 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 blah. And so there's all these voices, all these things telling you what you should. And I know deep down, if I then stop and pause and think how terrible I felt last year with my anxiety, with my heart palpitations, yes, I'm still feeling slightly anxious, but would I not be feeling doubly worse if I had a drink? And I know that this might not be forever. This is how I'm living this at the moment. Okay, this is how I have to live it. For me, is that at the moment, this is what I need to be doing to be an ultimate health. My business is going from strength to strength thanks to quitting alcohol. There are so many opportunities that have come that I don't think I would have taken or even tried to do if I was still drinking. And so I'm in a really good place for now. And I would like to say, yeah, of course I'll have a drink maybe in a year's time, but it's never going to be one. And I'm scared because I don't want to have to go through all of this again. If I was coming from a place where someone had quit because they were only having the odd one and they just felt it was pointless and then they wanted to go back, I can see why people would. But if you're coming from a place where actually by the end of December, it was ridiculous, and I felt like my waking thought was, oh, I'm not going to drink today. And I bet there are women out there that can resonate with this. You get up, you've had a couple of drinks, okay, I'm not going to drink today. It's rather like that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday thing. But by 10 o'clock, when you're feeling okay from the night before, oh, that's what I feel all right. Oh, I can have a drink tonight. I don't want to control it anymore. I mean, sorry, it to control me. I've taken back what it had taken from me, and I don't want to go down that route again. And it's funny because I have again had friends who said, you weren't an alcoholic. I don't understand. You haven't. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you think I was or what I was. And I'm not saying that I was. I'm saying I had a dysfunctional relationship with alcohol that at this point in my life had got out of control. And with my menopause, perimenopause, it was destroying me. And I had to do something about it. And so many women are in this situation. They don't identify with being an alcoholic, but I think that again, that's what you say. We have to remove that stigma because that's not a reason to necessarily give up. It's if you're not in the right place where you want to be, and alcohol's not helping you. Like I often say, what's the point? I didn't even enjoy it. Like by the end of December, it was just a thing. Like I just remember just before midnight on New Year's Eve, being so grateful that I was doing Dry January Sober Dave. I felt like I'd got to a place where I could finally get out of this hole.
Yeah. And online support's so key because I went to my first sober social a few weeks in and I was petrified, but when I left there I felt like a different person. I'll just pull you up on one thing when you said a lot of women feel like that. A lot of men do as well.
Yeah.
Because when not all men were like me, where I was drinking ridiculous amounts. Some guys, they do go days without, and it's the weekend binges they have with the football and then with work. And you're right what you say, Kate. I always say it's not the quantity, it's how it makes you feel. And you could be having 1 or 2 glasses a night, but if that's a habit and it affects your health or your relationship or your sleep, then it's a problem. And that's why I'm always banging on about the stigma of alcoholism and trying to educate people around me that don't quite get it. When I was drinking, my wife, never got it because she used to say to me, why can you not just share a bottle of wine? I don't understand it. And I would say, I don't know. I'm just not wired that way. That was my default answer. But I said to her after, do you think I was being devious by hiding wine under the bed and in the wardrobes? Because I wasn't. It's because I needed it. Because half a bottle of wine each with you wasn't enough for me. It was a starter for me, and I wanted the main course and the dessert,
Yeah.
And she knows a lot more now about the whole thing, and she feels a little bit sort of awkward about the fact that she judged me that way because it is a disease, and it's, alcohol is a hugely highly addictive drug. And when, like yourself, when you come back to me and said, I think I've got a handle on it, and the external voices were encouraging your internal voices because you were saying to yourself, I think I'm all right. I think, and the external voices, your friends are, you were saying like, well, you're all right. You can have a drink, go on, egging you on. And then you're so easily encouraged then to go, do you know what? Sod it. I'm going to have a drink.
Yeah.
But then when you get back to that routine, it's a bit like getting back to an abusive ex, isn't it? When you have a wild night and you wake up in the morning and he's laying there and it's like, oh, what have I done? You know, and it's not long before those old patterns start to appear back in your life and you're thinking, I'm back here.
And also I think if you come off once, right, it has to be, if you do decide to go back, it has to be your total and utter decision. And you've got to have really thought it through and thought about moments like that waking up. Because I know I've texted you, haven't I, on a couple of occasions when I've properly woken up in the morning, like,
yeah,
like you're saying, oh my God, I drank. And it's been a nightmare. I've had a nightmare that I've been out with my friends. I've got absolutely shit-faced. And then I've woken up and thank God it's a dream. And so I keep telling myself to remember how I felt when I woke up that morning from my dream, because that's how I'm going to feel if I go back, unless maybe in a year or 2 years time, when perhaps my menopause symptoms have gone down, when perhaps maybe I'm in a better place, maybe I feel I can have the one. I mean, I'm saying it, but I don't think I'll ever be able to. But if I did ever go back, that has to be my ultimate, my choice from me, not from any peer pressure. But you know, for the now, like I said, it's not on my radar.
no.
I love life. There's no thought anymore. And I've had a client recently who I did ask to give up for 6 weeks on a program. I think she did 5, and she's gone back to saying I'm just drinking at the weekends. But I know that's a slippery slope to climbing it back in. And there is now no, like, we've had the football. I have had no anxiety around. There's been a couple of associations, you know, oh, there's not going to be that really fun vibe and all of us screaming and but there is, like, I think it's your mind plays tricks on you, like we know, and it predicts what did happen, and it's not going to be like that. Like, it automatically says there's not going to be that vibe because you're not drunk and rolling around and screaming at the TV. But oh my God, we were all screaming at the TV the other night. We'll all be screaming at the TV on Sunday night. The thing is, I might remember the score, and I probably won't swear in front of the children, and I won't actually just want to consume, you know, be there just drinking and actually probably not even watching the football. I guess using the football as an excuse to have a drink. You know, actually I'm watching the football because I want to watch the football, not as an excuse to sort of have a drink. And you know, it's all those little triggers, I think, that people you've got to get by. And now there is no 5 o'clock urge. Like, I'm so surprised sometimes when things happen. And what was lovely actually was last night, I did a live, I did an IGTV, and then I had the whole night with the family. And I'm really beginning now to even more 6 months in, soak up those moments, you know, even stuck in isolation, which is pushing me. Actually, it is definitely making me a better person each day that I go for longer. So, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? We all want that quick fix, whether it's exercise, whether it's a diet, whether it's quitting alcohol. We just want to stop. And we want to feel amazing as soon as we've done it. And that's not the way it's going to happen. You have to give it time. It is a marathon. It's not a sprint. But just look at the community that you were talking about and what you've created and the support there, and look to the people that have been doing it for longer and look at their amazing transformations, and let that be your kind of your driving force. It's certainly my driving force. You know, on the moments I feel crap, I'll always reach out, and somebody else is finding it tough too, but you know that you can get through it.
Absolutely, 100%. And that's why I'm always honest with my journey as well, because like last Saturday, I put it out there on Instagram that I was struggling, but at no point did I want a drink. It was the fear of missing out of the people walking in the afternoon in their out clothes. And I thought, God, they are literally really celebrating. There's me not even wanting to watch it tonight because I was sulking like a baby. I really was. And I took my dog out at half time, and I heard the roar when Harry Kane scored just after half time. And my initial reaction was, thank God I'm not amongst that, you know? And then it made me think, do you know what? It's true what the mind plays with you. It gives you a false sense of security, doesn't it? It makes you feel like you're missing out when in fact you're not. You're gaining the joy of missing out, as you say. And then, you know, I always say this, no matter what part of the journey, it's like riding a bike, and some parts of the journey you're going to be riding up a steep hill, and you either get off and throw your bike in the bushes, or you keep pedaling, get your head down, you get to the top, and it's a lovely straight, the views are amazing, and then you go downhill, but then you got another hill. It's like that. And
Yeah.
you've got to keep pedaling throughout, because there's no point saying that everything to do with sobriety is absolutely incredible, because it's real. There's real experiences. There's days that you are really fed up and down, like you lately, but
Yeah.
there's areas that you've really pulled together and you've got through it, and you should be really proud of yourself, because it'd have been easy to go, you know, sod it, I'm having a drink, and some
Yeah.
people do. But with that, I always say, look, if that happens, get up again, start again, and use that as evidence. So next time, and I'm not talking about when you first pick that drink up, I'm talking about the first thoughts that come into your head. So it could be in the morning and you've woke up fed up, tired, and thought, I could kill a drink later. And that is the beginning, you
Yeah, but
know?
you've also, so the thing I always say to myself now with everything is, you are not your thoughts, you know, and so it's a thought. Right? It is a thought. It is a thought. Have a drink. Don't exercise. Eat the chocolate. Like, you're not doing it. You have to take yourself to do the action of your thought. So there is a stopping point between your thought and doing it, and that's the time to go. Okay, right. I want to drink. Do you really want to drink? Have that flipping conversation with that person, with that thought. And actually, by the time you finish the conversation, that urge for the drink would have gone, and you've fought that thought, as it were. So you've kind of got to, you know, again, bring it to alcohol. When you wake up in the morning, sorry, bring it to exercise. I don't want to exercise. I don't want to exercise. You do. Get out of bed. You ignore that person, ignore that thought, and do it, because you'll feel better. And it's the same thing. Ignore that driving urge to go and have that drink, because you will feel better. And often, actually, when I get that thought, I will go and make myself a nice drink. Okay, so I'm going through the motions of what I think it is that makes me feel better. So it might be a nice kombucha on ice. It might be tonic water with a squeeze of lemon in it. So if it's like, you know, it's my sort of alcohol-free gin and tonic, and I'll do that with my little bowl of crisps, and I'm having my ritual, and that's become my ritual. Then once I'm done with that, I am totally, that thought is a million miles away. And it's just doing that every day, little habits, little tweaks, that's made it so much easier. And I have invested in some really nice, expensive kombucha, which comes in a bottle, you know, and it pops, and the bottle pops. And I'm going to have that probably at the football. And I have it. We've had people for dinner a while back, obviously not when we were isolating. And I was there, just me and my glass of bubbly rosé kombucha, awake until 1 a.m. That was a struggle. But I didn't feel that it made kind of any difference to me that everyone else was drinking and I wasn't. And that for me was huge, like properly huge. So yeah, it's been a battle, especially, as you know, this year with my dad. And I've had the conversations about the things that I will talk about one day, having brought that suitcase down with the people that I've needed to have the conversations with. And I've managed to remain calm and talk about them sensibly. So, which I wouldn't have been able to do. So I feel it's made me stronger, because I'm battling those things with a sober, clear mind.
And let's just move on to your fitness, because you are literally always doing workouts online. You're incredible. Has your fitness improved immensely since giving up drinking?
Yeah, I think it definitely has. I think I've definitely got stronger. I don't quite know how I was functioning really before, but you know, the effects of alcohol from the night before on a workout, you know, dehydration, more susceptible to injury. I mean, it's huge. So yes, actually, I went and did this ridiculous, actually, which was really good fun. This thing called Turf Games in Ealing on Saturday, and I didn't train for it. I didn't actually realise that I probably should have trained for it, and I should have done. But I did it, and I was lifting just as heavy as all the 25-year-olds that are on my team. Admittedly, they probably would have liked me to have lifted a little bit quicker, but you know, I did it. I don't think I would have been able to do that at all 6 months ago. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now, and I wouldn't be as passionate and driven to help women had I not probably been on the journey myself, because I'm able to look back now and kind of go, okay, Yeah, I've come a long way. I'm a lot fitter than I was. I find it bizarre when I think about it. I remember one workout I did. It was a New Year's workout, obviously, possibly the New Year. And I actually had to delay it. It wasn't a morning workout. I had to do it at 5 o'clock in the afternoon because I actually couldn't function. I still did it. But, it's not really clever, is it? Kind of, I'm promoting wellness and health and well-being. Yet, there was that secret part that was drinking way too much, and nobody would have known. Like I said to you, it wasn't that it was, at that I could have carried on, and I would still be here. It wasn't that I was putting my life, well, I probably was putting my life at risk. Actually, if we go back to that menopause thought, with all the myths around HRT and breast cancer and cancers that it causes, you are more susceptible, you are more likely to get cancer from having two alcoholic drinks a night as a woman than you are on HRT. So yes, I'm sure somewhere along the line, if I'd have carried on, there would have been some pretty big red flags this year.
Oh, it's fascinating, isn't it? And what's fascinating is when you can train so hard and then pour that stuff into your body. You might you eat. And
Dave, do you know what? I would do half marathons, and I did the Crawley half marathon. I did, and I did it in my fastest time, 1 hour 35, straight to the pub. Hadn't eaten, probably bottle of rosé. I mean, I hate to think I was fine. I mean, I was obviously drunk, but my body was fine the next day, and it recovered because it was used to it. But I hate to think what actually the damage I was doing that I couldn't see, or the damage that you're doing that you can't feel. And I think that's kind of the key, isn't it? And actually, that's the sort of thing I say about exercising and why we should exercise. Don't do exercise for the way it's going to make you look. Do exercise for the way it's going to make you feel and what it's going to do on the inside out. Yep. Okay, so with alcohol, you might not be able to see what it's doing on the outside, but by God, it's doing something on the inside.
I think when I was drinking, everyone could see what it's doing on my outside. Trust me, I look bloody awful. But
now you look 75, so you're all right.
Thank you, darling. It was 85 a couple of months ago, so I'm doing well. So what's next for you now then? What's ahead of you?
I have got some really exciting things coming up, which I'm not allowed to talk about. I know, but that's exciting, isn't it? Because then people want to follow the journey. What is next? So I think what's next for me is to carry on this path of sobriety, because I'm loving it, and as I said, it's opening a lot of doors and opportunities. Not the fact that I'm sober, but it's the fact that I'm able to do more because I'm not tired, I'm not fatigued, I'm not having terrible night's sleep. So I guess onwards and upwards, growing my community. I've changed my offering online, which I'll tell you about another time, because I think the other thing it's done, which I know you will like, is that I think when I was drinking, I was always doing too much because I felt like I'd have all these amazing ideas in my drunken stupor, and then you'd go and you would try and do them, and then you take on too much. And obviously over the last 6 months, as I've learned to appreciate what I'm capable of, I've had to look at some of the things I'm doing. So I'm just taking a step back from a few things to put my family and myself first, which is something I've probably not done for a while, and to change a few things that I'm doing online to give that space, and to enable me to do a few of the things that I do love. I've got 2 fitness festivals coming up, one in Wales next year and one in Oxford in September. And again, these are all things that I would have been too scared to have gone to have done, to put myself forward for. So yeah, onwards and upwards, lots more to come, and helping other women, obviously, just because that's my demographic, not men, but get out of perhaps this cycle of a terrible cycle that they find themselves in, and moving onwards and upwards and getting stronger.
It's fantastic. And when you've got all these events coming up, it gives you something to aim for as well, doesn't it? Because if you're training for them, I mean, I saw that thing you did the other day, and I was literally in awe of you lifting those weights. Like literally, how are you doing that? It was so brilliant to watch.
But it's sheer guts and determination, and that's it. I want to dispel the myths of menopause, and I want people to see that women in their 40s are just as strong and capable as any, as we were in our 30s. And that this is the time to kind of get rid of all of those things, get rid of all that toxicity in your life, be it alcohol, be it disordered eating, be it whatever. We come with so much baggage by the time we've got to kind of 40. Start afresh and go for it. And that's kind of what I want to share with other women, because I think sometimes by the time we get there, we feel forgotten and we're not necessarily represented in the right light. And I'm going to do more of those events. I'm going to train for them though, because I did put my body through quite something, and I've actually only really just been able to walk properly. I was only able to walk properly probably by Tuesday or Wednesday and lift my arms up. So definitely train properly. I also want to share, I want to get a group of women. I want to get menopause warriors, and we're all going to go to events like that. I would never have had the guts or the courage to do that, because actually I don't think I would be doing it if I was still drinking, because I'd much rather on a Saturday have been drinking than been going to a fitness event. And that's the other thing. I'm doing more things that I want to do, because I'm not going, oh, don't want to do that because I'm going to have I want to have a drink, or can't do that because I'm going to be hungover. It opens so many doors, because those doors are always open because you're not shutting them because you're hungover or drunk.
Yeah, it's true. And when even if you were drinking in the week, the next day you're going to feel lethargic, you procrastinate and whatever. And if you're training for something like this, you can't really afford to do that, can you? So
no,
it's a win-win. And I want to say, Kate, you're such a role model. Honestly, I've been following you for a couple of years now. I can't believe we haven't met.
We will.
I
would have been there. I would have been there on your sober evening, because we can't go on our holiday because we're in isolation, and obviously now we're in isolation. So you have to do another one.
I'm going to do a Christmas one. So anyone that's listening to this podcast can come to my sober Christmas party and meet Kate as well.
Yay! I'm going to meet you before bloody Christmas.
Yeah, I know. And I just think it's been an absolute lovely experience talking to you, Kate. It really has, as always. And you're very
well. I just want to say that I wouldn't have got here without you, and that there are millions and millions of other people that wouldn't have got here without you. So kind of on their, especially that sober Jan group, I know maybe there have been drop-offs, and that you've got your sober May as well. Thank you on behalf of all of them, because I'm sure not all of them can say thank you, but you have been incredible in the sober community and helping so many of us get to where we are. So I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. I mean, obviously I'd be here, but I wouldn't be like here.
Oh, I feel all emotional now. I do.
Oh, don't get emotional. But it's true. So thank you.
I'll take it. Thank you. Thank you, darling. And thanks for joining me on One for the Road. And let's get together soon and lift some weights.
Thank you.
Take it easy, Kate.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.